That the bill is reported favorably.
Thank you, Chairman, committee members, and everybody in the crowd. My office is open. Young man made a comment in reference to working. I do work. Please come to my office and we will address your issue. Thank you.
Trans lives matter! 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 Trans lives matter!
Hi, my name is Shivani Hassan. I'm a trans woman of color and the lead organizer for Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee. I am here today because House Bill 583 threatens my very livelihood and safety, as well as the livelihood and safety of transgender people all around the state of Florida. This bill threatens to criminalize transgender people from using the bathroom of their gender identity. Through fines, jail time, and possible lawsuits, it forces us to use restrooms where we will be unsafe and susceptible to sexual assault and torture. Transgender women already face high rates of abuse and sexual assault. This bill will only worsen those conditions. I call on all to fight against Bill 583, but I would also like to say the fight does not end here. We understand that transgender oppression is a systematic issue that goes far beyond bathrooms, and we understand that more than reform is needed. We need a fundamental restructuring of society that truly fits the needs of transgender women and transgender folk everywhere. We face some of the highest rates of unemployment, homelessness, and poverty in the nation. Trans women of color must fight for a better society that truly fits their needs. We must fight in the memory of our slain sisters, Jennifer Laud, Yasonda Sanchez, Isla Nettles, and many more who will forever live in our hearts as we fight for the true liberation of our sisters.
Hello everyone, my name is Burr Stegmeyer. I am an organizer with Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee and I am genderqueer. I'm going to elaborate on the particularly insidious nature of House Bill 583, which attempts to disguise its transmisogyc underbelly behind a thin veil of women's safety by falsely punishing trans people and trans women in particular for being abusers. If lawmakers were truly concerned with wanting to protect women from abuse and rape, they would utilize their efforts to make stricter laws and enforce pre-existing laws that are supposed to protect and enact justice for rape and abuse survivors. But as of right now, every 107 seconds, another American is sexually assaulted, and 98% of rapists will never spend a day in jail. Furthermore, approximately 2 out of 3 rapes are committed by someone known to the victim and not a stranger. According to these statistics, it is less significant whether a woman would face sexual violence simply because they are in a restroom. If lawmakers had a legitimate desire to prevent potential sexual violence specifically in restrooms, they would, rather than discriminate against an already marginalized group, seek to expand the availability of safe facilities for everyone, including transgender and non-binary folk. Ideally, this would include a mandate to reclassify any pre-existing single-stall facilities as all gender inclusive, as well as promoting and supporting development of all gender facilities that are not only safe for trans men and women, but also for transgender individuals who fall elsewhere along the gender spectrum, whose identities are often erased or ignored by a society that continuously polices our identities, misgenders us, and calls our very existence into question. The truth is, there are many genders as there are stars in the sky, and we should seek to promote a world where our identities cannot be dictated by a single moment, by a doctor, by our genitals, or by our appearance. In the meantime, you can rest assured that we will continue to fight this bill and any legislation that opens the floodgates for intensified discrimination of trans people, and in doing so, we will push our society ever forward on the path towards liberation for all people. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Naomi Bradley, and I'm a transgender woman. I'm representing Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee. We're here today to expose the rampant institutionalized transmisogyny that exists particularly in regards to House Bill 583, which is a bill that will criminalize trans people for our very existence. This bill is certainly symptomatic of the issue of transphobia, not only in the House, but also the Florida legislature at large. This bill seeks to make it a crime for transgender people to use public facilities that match their gender. For fulfilling a basic biological function, trans people will face a $500 fine, potential lawsuit, and up to 60 days in prison. Many members of the transgender community face poverty and will be unable to pay these steep fines. Trans women in Florida are almost exclusively sent to men's prisons and are denied access to hormone therapy while behind bars, which can lead to heightened dysphoria and ultimately debilitating depression. In the 60 days that a trans woman spends in a men's prison for violating this bill, she could be subject to assault, rape, psychological torture, and ultimately murder. Often trans women are held into solitary confinement as a way to protect them from the general population. The psychiatric effects of this practice are notoriously detrimental to a prisoner's mental health. Ultimately, this bill seeks to demonize trans women for crimes that we have not historically committed. The committee has attempted to portray trans women as violent rapists who seek to take advantage of cisgender women in their private spaces. And Representative Artiles has attempted to pass the bill off as a means of protecting said cis women from, quote, heterosexual men. He would have the members of the House believe that these two groups are one and the same. As a class, trans women are more likely to be victims of sexual assault than they are to be perpetrators of sexual assault. Trans women face some of the highest rates of sexual violence in the nation, with an estimated 68% of trans women reporting rape or some other form of sexual assault in their lifetime. Trans women face systematic oppression not only from the law, but also from society at large. 44% of reported hate crime-based murders in this country are committed against trans women, and especially trans women of color. 22% of trans women have reported harassment from police officers. This number is only amplified when race is added to the equation. A trans woman is slaughtered every 29 hours in this country. This is genocide, yet cisgender society continues to ignore it. If the cis media refuses to discuss trans women's lives, they certainly will not discuss our deaths. To number my sisters who have fallen the past year is a nearly impossible feat, as trans women are misgendered, even as we are sent to our graves. We are expected to be long-suffering as we express our grief, and when we cry out for justice, we are told to wait our turn. The violence that we face in our lives is rarely, if ever, avenged, yet cis society would have us believe that the justice system is working in our favor. Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee rebukes these claims and demands justice for all trans people who have lost their lives at the hands of cisgender society, whether through physical or psychic violence. Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee refuses to be patient while the list of trans women of color who have been taken from us continues to grow. We demand that House Bill 583 be dismantled, as this bill will put even more trans women in danger by forcing them to use public facilities where their safety will be greatly compromised via exposure to cisgender men. Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee calls not for a societal reform, but for a complete and radical revolution. Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee demands that cis-sexist belief systems be dismantled in order to better serve the trans women that it currently seeks to destroy. Trans Lives Matter Tallahassee demands an end to non-binary erasure, as well as an end to the rampant miseducation and lies that are fed to us daily by cis media. We strive towards a safer and more accepting future for all trans people. Trans liberation now!